Motherload is proudly created in partnership with Gordon & Gordon Interiors. Building more than our city skyline, they build our community. Motherload is a space for honest conversations about the invisible load women carry: motherhood, wellness, resilience, identity, and everything in between. Because strength isn't about perfection, it's about rebuilding, reconnecting, and becoming who we're meant to be through every season of life. Today's guest is someone who supported our own family during a season when parenting felt really overwhelming. After a recent session, one of my children got in the car and said, "She's the best in the whole world," just like magic. And honestly, I think that's what so many parents are looking for. Someone who helps their child feel seen, understood, and safe. Joining me today is Shae Mellors, a mom, a certified child life specialist, and child and family counselor. Shae, I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
So one of the first questions I have for you is based on personal experience. Why do you think so many parents wait until things feel unmanageable before they reach out for support with someone like you?
Yeah, unmanageable. I think the hardest part for parents is we're kind of task-oriented. We're constantly doing the dishes, the dinners, the lunches, the tournaments, the sports, the everything, right?
Yeah.
It's ongoing. And so when you say, overwhelmed and overstimulated, it's our nervous system, 110%.
Yeah.
We are constantly dealing with so many tasks. And when it comes to all these tasks, we get distracted. And you're saying, why are we waiting so long? Why are we waiting so long?
We just can't keep up with it all.
We can't.
Yeah.
It's too much until there's that one tantrum. There's that one thing that our kid says that's too far. And we recognize that we can't do it alone.
Yes.
We reach out to our village.
I love that so much. And how do you know when it's time to reach out? Like, how can parents be like this? What's different between like just everyday chaotic life, family stress, and that moment where it's like, no, it's gone too far? Is there anything you can say to that?
That mama gut?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's the one thing that you're going to be able to recognize and know you don't have the resources or the tools or the supports. So you're going to reach out to your community and try and find, what is it that I need in this moment?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where referrals started pouring in for you.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for that because it just was the best experience with you. Like, it's just been, like Hudson said, magic. Absolutely. But I am curious, what are some of the most common reasons families are coming through your door right now, if you're able to speak to that just generally?
Yeah. So many different things.
Yeah.
From, I think my youngest client has ever been 21 months, and that was play therapy based.
Yes.
For medical trauma.
Okay.
So that's kind of my niche. That's definitely something that is very close to my heart.
Yeah.
But like you said, word of mouth is the most successful referral base that I receive.
Yes.
So things like siblings, dynamics, yeah. Things like, how much screen time should my kiddo be having? Yeah. I'm noticing some challenges with behaviors, those types of things.
Yeah.
The other really most common thing, and how I like to categorize it, is new diagnosis.
Okay.
So any sort of new diagnosis, from ADHD to autism to anything medical too. Anxiety,
Yeah.
all these types of new diagnosis that we're kind of navigating as parents.
Right. And so for me personally, it was just the isolation, overstimulation of having twins and an older boy. And honestly, it just felt like my nervous system was on pure overload. And I felt like I had this sense of pride that I needed to just control and maintain it all. And I truly waited till things like went way too far, and there was outbursts in the house. There was not even being able to get out the door, just a lot of anxiety. And so if I could go over and do life again just a couple years ago. I wish I would have reached out sooner and had a more preventative, proactive approach, honestly. But I'm just so glad we found each other when we did, because honestly, since meeting you, things have been, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but truly you've made such an impact for our family. And it's just incredible, your approach.
Yeah, thank you.
Why do you think parents are feeling as overstimulated as they are today? Like, what is the modern parent just dealing with a ton more than any previous generation? Or are we doing something wrong?
I don't think we're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at how much has changed just in the last, say, 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or even look at when you were a child.
Yes.
Right? There was so many different things happening. The stress, the overwhelm was not as large as it is now.
No.
We can barely afford chicken breast at the grocery store. And so I think the hardest part about this whole process of parenting is the sense that we are trying to keep up with all these tasks.
Yeah.
We are trying to go to multiple jobs. We are trying to stay above and beyond for our family.
Yes. It's a lot of pressure.
It is.
Yeah.
And then you exhaust yourself all day long.
Yeah. With the
And you
screen
come
time.
home
Yeah.
and you need to ground yourself.
Yes.
And how are you going to be able to do that when those are the most key hours of parenting?
Yes.
Is after school.
After school. And we, at that point, we're depleted. And we've given, like you said before when we've met, we've given our best to either our working relationships or everything up until the point of the school bell lets the kids out. And then I feel so guilty that they're seeing this more irritable, depleted side of me because I've already exhausted all my resources come to 3 p.m. And I just wish I had more of me to give.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, like, did my parents feel this way? Or did they, because I remember them saying they were stressed out too when I was a child. And even to this day, they try to remind me that, you know, it was really hard raising me at times and stuff, but there's no comparison, I feel like. And I wish I could remind them of that, you know, what we're going through in this modern day world. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. The hats we have to wear. Do you have any advice for parents that are really feeling burning the candle at both ends and overstimulated, but wanting to do what's best for their kid?
Yeah. So I think, like we mentioned, you know, it's the 5 or 10 minutes that you can balance and do 2 things at once.
Yeah.
Okay, the dinner's on, it's in the oven. I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to front load my child and say, hey, I have 10 minutes to spare. Get on the ground.
Yeah.
As sore as it is.
Yeah.
And play with those little Barbies or those little monster trucks.
Yes.
And make sure that we're, you know, also recharging our battery at the same time. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to pause.
Yeah.
We need to listen.
Right.
We need to take deep breaths and model. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Right?
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
I wish I could model that behavior for my kids a little bit better, but I really am leaning into it and doing it as often as I can, knowing that I am human and I do slip up too. And I'm getting a lot better at apologizing for losing my cool as often as I do, because sometimes it just feels so valid. Like, honestly, it can be a lot in the morning and it feels like they're doing things almost intentionally. And then I remind myself that's just not the case, but I am human. And I think we just have to apologize and move forward and just keep getting better.
And I feel like there's a sense of like perfectionism with parenting.
Right, which really isn't realistic and absolutely exhausting. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we are going to be chatting about the invisible emotional labor of parenting. So stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm here with my guest Shae today, and we're chatting about all things children, overstimulation, parenthood, and now we're getting into the invisible emotional labor of parenting. And something I've been realizing lately is that the hardest part of parenting isn't even really the logistics. It's feeling emotionally responsible for everybody else all of the time. I'm sure you can relate to that too as a mom. Is that something you see often with your families though?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. A lot of them are moms coming in, explaining the story, doing the history. That initial assessment is all mamas.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And so those moms come in and they set up the appointments. They make sure the bill is paid.
Yeah.
They then explain everything that's happening for that little kiddo, right? And at the end of that statement, they say, how do I fix it? What am I supposed to do? What am I doing wrong? How can I change it?
What percentage of your business, your clientele, would you say is mom versus managing and having relationships with children, mom or dad?
Yeah. I don't know if there's necessarily a percentage, but I would say a large part of me is definitely connecting with moms and making sure that they're fully supported.
Right.
And I think this comes back to what we had talked about again earlier, is that sense of like, you know, if mom's regulated and if mom's at her very, very best, then she's able to show up for her kids at that very best moment too.
It's so important. What kind of things are they maybe saying to you in terms of, I feel like I'm emotionally responsible for everyone else in this family? Especially, I can really attest to this because I'm dealing with my boy-girl twins and my 4.5-year-old boy, and just needing to make sure I'm spending equal time with each of them. And I feel responsible if anybody doesn't feel like something was fair. They all want mommy and me day and think it's unfair. And I just feel like I'm managing, so I'm responsible for their emotions. And is that specifically something you're hearing from parents? And like, what advice do you have for parents? Because I think that's probably one of the most draining parts.
You want your baby to be happy.
Yeah.
And not only baby, but babies.
Yeah.
You want all of them to feel wanted and seen and heard.
Equally.
Absolutely. And you're doing that.
I'm trying.
You're absolutely doing it.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part is, on top of everything else in that parenting, we're holding that weight.
Yes.
Right? And it's allowing us to understand that we need to provide them the skills and the tools to know what unfair feels like.
Yes.
And not necessarily in an unloved way, but how are they going to navigate that hockey tournament? How are they going to navigate a dance performance without a little bit of understanding of what the real world feels like?
That's so true.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I feel like parents are exhausted these days, even when nothing major happened that day. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like some of these days just feel like Groundhog Days, and they're mundane, and they're just like rolling into one another. And sometimes my husband and I will look at each other and we're just like, we're exhausted, and we didn't even, what do we even do today? Can you relate to that? And like, is that something you're also seeing in your sessions with families? And like, why do you think that is?
Yeah. And I think it's our perspective. Like, what do you see as a big moment day? Okay, that's a hockey tournament for sure, right?
That just takes me out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what about all the things that you do on a normal day?
The invisible load.
Yes. Drop off, breakfast. Are they dressed? Do they have both shoes on? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that is all taking on that responsibility and making sure it gets done. Right?
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And so when we have all these families coming in and they're just exhausted, the last thing they want to do is try and work on change.
Yes.
Right?
That's so true.
And I think this kind of maybe jumps back to what we were talking about earlier, in the sense of, you know, how do we keep up with everything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such an important point, that parents should really acknowledge all of the stuff that sometimes doesn't feel like appreciated, the stuff that just gets done by default. That's heavy. And I think we should all applaud ourselves a little bit more with that.
Even Hayden this weekend, he was like, you know, I don't know where my sandals went. I don't know where my shirt went. I'm like, that's because mom picked it up.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, I need to, even as a child therapist, I need to do better in my parenting to be able to give him those skills to remember his things,
his own things,
to, you know, gather himself and just be in the moment, because he's on rampage at those tournaments that he's not even breathing half the time.
That's such a good point too, with respect to, are we enabling our kids too much by doing all these little things for them? And then there's the opposite thought track. It's like, no, these kids have enough on their plate. The least we can do is make their bed and do everything for them and help them out in this regard. I don't know. Like there's two very different philosophies. And I think a balance of both is good. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. But what I see is that balance is providing them the skills and the tools.
Right.
With also understanding where they are emotionally and how to regulate themselves as well.
Yeah. What are children picking up on when their parents are overwhelmed or running on empty? Like, are they feeling us? Are they absorbing that energy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They learn from us. They're watching every single step. Yeah. I remember the first time I sighed and like tried to take a deep breath in a very hard tantrum. Yeah. You're mad at me, Mom. I'm not mad, sweetie. I'm taking that breath that I need to regulate mine. But he picked up on it immediately. He knew exactly how I felt.
Wow.
He knew exactly the emotion that was attached to that and was trying to identify that emotion for me.
Wow. That's beautiful modeling.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't want him to feel that pressure.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So it's a total balance of how do I, regulate my own emotions so that he's not quite absorbing it.
Right.
But is able to balance and feel his presence.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that's a beautiful example of how we can model behaviors for our children. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when we return, we're going to be talking about what kids actually need most from us. So stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm here with my guest, Shae, and we're talking about all things child, therapist, counseling, and more for parents. One of the questions I have for you next is that, on a personal note, my introduction to support for my children was very clinical and diagnosis focused, which eventually led to me connecting to your company, Pediatric Power Play, which is, by the way, very popular in Victoria. You're one of the best. We know that. Your approach through play feels completely different than, say, alternative therapy. Why is play such a powerful tool for understanding children?
Yeah. So if you think about it, we come in with this strong therapeutic approach. We're looking for the best of the best. I think, we look for those titles and the education and all that kind of stuff, right? What we don't look for is connection.
Yeah.
Can this person connect with me? Are they responding to my emails? Are they setting up the appointments? And then from there, when I feel regulated as a parent and I get to come into an office space with my kiddo, I know that I'm setting the intention for an opportunity to connect.
Yes.
This child is going to be open to connecting because they feel safe. They feel connected already through their parent.
Yep.
And they can tell that their parent feels calm.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So coming into an office prepared.
Yep.
Key, number one.
The foundation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Secondly, play is not a language that we teach children. We teach them English, we teach them other languages, we teach them social skills, those types of things.
Yes.
We never actually sit down and teach a child to play. It's something they know. It's a language, it's a form of communication that is so real and genuine to them.
Yes.
So knowing that that is their form of communication, why are we not using that as a vehicle? That is the biggest vehicle that I can use.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
To connect with them on these levels where they need the most space to feel seen and heard, to allow those vulnerabilities to come out.
I just think play in itself is just allowing them that space that they need to feel super safe with you. And do you have how do you know what they want to play? You just allow them to play with whatever they want to play.
Yeah.
And then from there, how do you go in and sort of...
Yeah, it's child focused, right?
Yeah.
You allow them the environment. And when they come into the environment, they know the options, they know the possibilities.
Right.
Right? And so
Yes.
whatever they're gravitating towards is something we use within our session.
Okay.
From there, they get settled, their nervous system is regulated, they're grounded within whatever they're doing. And that communication just happens.
Right.
And you said it perfectly. it is magic.
Yeah.
It's 100% magic. What happens in that room for honestly 50 minutes is insane to me. I feel so honored and privileged to be in that room, to experience those things with those children, because it's just beautiful to see what gets to come out of these sessions.
That's so sweet, honestly. And I can attest that you're absolutely right. But honestly, on the flip side, it makes me feel somewhat guilty because like one thing I've admitted to you before is that imaginative floor play is just something that doesn't come super naturally to me. I always find myself like wanting to wrap things up quickly or be like, just a second. And I don't know what it is. I know it is common with other parents too, but like
Absolutely.
I just wish I could be like more like you're saying, because I know how much it means to my kids to just get on the floor and play with the Barbies and have a whole thing. But like, why do you think parents struggle with it so much?
Yeah, we don't have the time for our nervous system to calm.
Yeah.
Especially during dinner, right? It's busy, it's crazy, everything's happening. So to be able to allow our brain to sit, to allow our brain to go into this imaginative play, it's challenging. It challenges us. We're now uncomfortable.
I'm like, when is this going to wrap up?
Absolutely.
Like, how long are we going to be here?
Absolutely. So we're sitting in ourselves, that own uncomfortableness.
Right.
And that uncomfortable feeling is something really hard for us to push through.
Right. Because it's an undefined amount of time.
Absolutely. And not only that, but why are we, saying, oh, she went here and he went here and creating the story with them, right?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to create a story, but maybe we come from a different lens as parents.
Right.
Maybe we say, oh, what did she get to do next? Ooh, this is a really cool part of the story. I'm curious.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Give them the reins in the show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I do have one wrap-up question. I know so many parents are listening at home. If there's one thing you wish every overwhelmed parent listening knew, what would it be? Oh, it's a big question, but...
Yeah. One thing for them all to just be able to know. It's hard. It's one that I was told as a brand new mom with a brand new baby. The days go by so slow.
Yeah.
And the years go by so fast.
Yeah, it's so true.
And it is. And we hear it so much that I think it's just getting so overlooked.
Yeah.
But if we can look back in this situation now and just remember that every day is another day that's just going by so quickly.
It's true.
And so I think, being in the moment and as present as possible, we only have them for so long.
I know.
And they're only little for so long.
Just be present for the joys and just do your best to get through it. And everything's a season.
Absolutely.
Everything's a phase, and I can attest to that too. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here, Shae. Today's conversation is a very important reminder that parents aren't struggling because they don't care enough. They're struggling because they just care too much. And I know you and I are like that, and so many others that I've talked to at home. But thank you for helping families at home listening feel more seen and heard and understood.
Yes.
I appreciate you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me and allowing me to be here for this platform, to be able to share my knowledge with so many other parents that I haven't even been able to yet.
And you at home can follow Shae at Pediatric Power Play on Instagram. Special thanks to Gordon Builders for supporting this episode. And thank you at home for tuning into Motherload. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.